screen. I hope people can see that.
Oh yes, very well done. And all I just want to tell you about Chol HaMoed as we start off. Chol HaMoed also b'tzas malachos u'mutar b'miktzasa. Without spending a lot of time talking about if one can to try and avoid working, that's ideally very interesting here in this country. It's universally basically accepted. It's a national week's holiday here, which is wonderful. Wherever you go, everybody seems to be on holiday this week. Doesn't matter whichever persuasion you're on, but so it's always nice to see. What is also very interesting is have a look at the Mishnah Berurah here. The last of the narrow lines of the Mishnah Berurah that's in. Yeah, there you are. Gam chayev l'chabed b'chol hamod b'machol b'mishteh. I'm sure you'll be pleased with that one. With other words, food and drink. Chol HaMoed, yes, I know it's in the intermediary days of the festival, but nevertheless, it's chayev b'machol b'mishteh. So please have. I know there's only one day left of Chol HaMoed, but please do have a glass. Say cheers to the Mishnah Berurah is telling us that very interesting halacha. And he says next line ukasus nikiya. Make sure nice clean clothes. It's not a weekday. It's a very special day, and it is again certainly in the areas I'm frequenting. It's you do see everybody basically wearing, if you say Shabbos outfits. Israel is not known for the time, but okay, for a couple of days. So watch out for the calories. But he does say preferable if you can have a meal. Of course, it will be when it says pasi. It would be with matzah. Have a proper meal, night and day. De kiven de mitzvah lachabdo. Third wide line, the end of that. Seeing as there is a mitzvah to honor Chol HaMoed. Ba'achila, with food, ushasi, a drink too, ikar achilu lechem. A meal normally comprises having some, in this case it would be matzah, so if it agrees with you, then certainly matzah is preferred. And interesting how he says day and night. Again, if you can have more than that too. And it's very interesting, the Rambam, we can go back now, Peter, interesting. The Rambam says in Guide to the Perplexed, people may be familiar with that work of the Rambam, where the Rambam actually writes, there are two things actually. The Vilna Gaon says, we do know that the mitzvah of eating matzah is on Seder night. There is a positive mitzvah to eat matzah on Seder night. Try one's best, even if you can't manage that, even some type of flour, but eat something. It should be matzah, unleavened bread on Seder night. Throughout the Yom Tov, says the Vilna Gaon, there is a mitzvah to eat matzah. Not, I'd say, and not insisting on that. It's what's called a mitzvah kiyumis. If you do eat, it's a mitzvah. It's not, I say, compulsory, but nevertheless, and it seems to be certainly according to the Moreh Nevuchim, which is a work of the Rambam, and he writes with a food. Normally, it's not just 2 or 3 days. If you have 7 days of a food, then you really take that food in, and that's the message really that we're taking in. The message of the matzahs, as we know, it was the speed of the redemption, and that's the lesson we're taking in. And to get the others to, okay, we'll see if we can try and change that. Go back again, all I'm mentioning is again about the Yom Tov and the idea of eating the matzahs, as we saw there, having meals if you can, and certainly over the last couple of days of Yom Tov, eating the matzah, really taking in that idea of the speed of delivery, the speed of deliverance, and that's really the message. We're in the hands of Hashem, and we do, together with Tefillah, look forward to things changing, certainly for the better. So again, it's always worth being positive. That's very much the message of Pesach, the speed of delivery, and the gratitude. We'll talk more about that maybe at the end. If we can now turn to our Gemara, Chof Daled Omid Aleph. And remember, we spoke about the Mekudesh, remember they're sanctifying the moon. And this is the Bezdin. If you remember the Mishnah, do you remember the Mishnah? Let's just quickly go back to the Mishnah. We got Mervyn with us, good. Third line down of the Mishnah. Bein shenire bisman, shelo nire bismano, makadshin oiso, said the Mishnah. 4 lines down in the Mishnah, which means that we go through this Kiddush HaChodesh of the Bezdin, whether or not, when it says bismano, shelo bismano, remember, there's the months, in the calendar, either 30, you've got a 29-day month or a 30-day month. And the reason for that is because, in fact, they're 29 and a half days for the moon to circle round, a circuit round the earth is 29 and a half days. Hence, you have either a 29-day or 30-day month. If the month was 29, then that's what the Mishnah says, that on that occasion, people will come to the Bezdin saying they saw the moon the previous night. And it's on that occasion they will go through this and they will be Makadesh, sanctify that month by saying today is day 1. However, if the month is that extra day, in other words, you've got a 30-day month, then the Tanakama of the Mishnah says, we do not go through this sanctification of the Bezdin because it happens automatically. You with me? Well, the Tanakama says, Bein shenire bismano, beginning of the line, mikachin oisoi. Whether it's a 30 or a 29-day month, we always sanctify, and the Bezdin will say Mekudesh. Continue the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer bar Rab Tzadok says, Imlo nire bismano, this is the point we need to think about. If the moon is not seen bismano, which means at its first time, first opportunity, which means the month is therefore a 30-day month, and then you'll have day 1, it's either one or t'other. Says Rabbi Eliezer bar Rab Tzadok, Ein mekadshin oisoi. You do not go through the Bezdin sanctifying that month. Why? Shekava, this is very important for us, Kava kidshuhu shomayim. Heaven has already sanctified that month. What does it mean heaven has sanctified that month? The way we understood this sounded like, in other words, it's an automatic. Because the default position, you can't have a month longer than 30 days. If it's therefore not a 29-day month, it must be a 30-day month. It doesn't need the Bezdin then announcing that the month is what they call a Ma'uba. Is that right? So there's a machlokas in the Mishnah between the Tanakama who says Bezdin always examines the witnesses and say Mekudesh, and say that day is Rosh Chodesh, whether it was the previous month was a 29-day month or a 30-day month, they're always sanctifying the new month. But Rabbi Eliezer bar Rab Tzadok, and this will be very important because we need to know how do we paskin, Rabbi Eliezer bar Rab Tzadok says no. If the month was not seen, bismanoi, I mean it was a 29-day month, it was a 30-day month, we do not go through all of this. They are not Mekadesh, the month, because it happens automatically. Let's have a look at the Gemara, please.
Can I just one thing, Norman? I mean, it's an interesting point because the whole point of the Kiddush on Levon is that it should be done by Bethdin, lo b'shamayim, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So the idea of saying it's automatic and b'shamayim is sort of.
Yeah, you're right. That seems to be against exactly what we've said. You're quite right. So therefore, what we're learning is
counterintuitive.
The Mishnah, yes, counterintuitive. The Mishnah is telling us that it's true. We have got this pasuk telling us that the house of Mekadesh Achodesh Hazeh Nochem Rosh Chodoshim, that would only apply where, in fact, the Beis Din are coming in.
Sorry, you cut
and deciding
out.
that day is going to be
As soon as you started speaking to me.
I'm sorry.
You cut out just as you were beginning to answer me, so I lost the beginning of your answer.
Okay. What we're learning here from the Rav Elazar bar Tzadok, that the Pasuk is telling us that they only go through this HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem, the Rosh Chodesh, means when it's your decision. If it's not your decision, because it can't be more than 29, it's not your decision anymore, then we do not go through this. So it's right, it's limiting the pasuk to tell me, if you want to make today Rosh Chodesh, and it's almost like in Shamayim, in heaven, their hands are tied, then yes, you can make today Rosh Chodesh. That means after a 29-day month. If it's not a 29-day month, it's got to be 30. So it's now no longer the Beis Din's prerogative to say, well, we're going to make today Rosh Chodesh, because it can't be any longer than 29, which means, therefore, that this happens automatically. But you're quite right. This is the view of Rav Elazar bar Tzadok, whereas the Tanna Kama seems to follow the view we've always subscribed to, which is that it does mean that on every occasion, the Beis Din will be announcing though Rosh Chodesh. And we had a Gemara about this earlier, if you remember. Have a look go back if you've got a Gemara in front of you, Daf Chof Aleph Omad Aleph, 21a, for those people who had it. Don't need Peter to bring it up if you've got the Gemara yourselves. If you haven't, do you remember 21a was a good vintage? 29, right at the top of the Omud, Levi Iklan above. Oh, thank you. Very good indeed. Levi, thank you. Levi Iklan above Bachadsa de Tishri. Remember, he went there on the 11th of Tishri, and they didn't know. Omar, he says, Besim Tafshila de Bavloi. You can see the translation. The tasty dish of the Babylonians. The Yoma Rabba de Maraba, on the great day, which means it's Yom Kippur in, as he's saying, Maraba in the west, which means in Eretz Israel. You remember? Because he was coming from Eretz Israel, he managed to get to Bovel, and he was there on the 11th. What they didn't know in Bovel is that the previous month was actually longer than they'd imagined. They imagined it was going to be a 29-day month. In fact, it was longer.
I'm so sorry.
I'll read the English again. I saw the freezing off. And they're observing Yom Kippur in the west. The month of Elul had been declared full in Eretz Yisrael, and according to the calendar, it was the 10th of Tishri. So they said to this lady, please testify that today is Yom Kippur, and we'll observe today as Yom Kippur. He said, I can't do that because I didn't hear the Beis Din, lo shomati mi pi Beis Din mekudesh. A nice translation for you here. Although I know that the month had been declared full, since I did not personally hear the proclamation, I cannot offer direct testimony such that you should change your calculations. Okay, remember we learned that Gemara some while back, but notice the words he says, Lo shomati mi pi Beis Din mekudesh. I didn't hear it. So the story is very interesting. He didn't hear it directly, and therefore, he knew that was going to happen because they didn't sanctify after 29 days. So he knew what was going to happen, but he didn't hear them testify. Now that's interesting that those words used in the Gemara sound like they would have actually testified, if you see what I mean, on that, even though the month was not a 29-day month, it was a 30-day month. You with me? So that looks like This is following, and that's pointed out by one of the Achronim. It looks like that Levi is going along with the first view in the Mishnah, that they would sanctify months whether they were 29 or 30, and hence he said, I didn't hear them announce that. Well, according to Rab Loza or Rab Tzadok, there's nothing to hear because they won't announce it if it's a 30-day month. You with me? So that Gemara seems to support the view of the Tanna Kama. Let's go back to the Gemara, please. So it's a nice proof from that Gemara in Chaf Aleph that we paskin both. But watch this space, please. If you follow this down the Gemara, 1, 2, 3, 4 narrow lines up in the Gemara. Have you got it? 4 narrow lines up? Sorry, I just came on mute. Got a couple of grandchildren there trying to keep them not too much noise, we hope. Maybe able to hear someone. Okay, have you got it? 4 lines up, narrow lines. Rabbi Loza Bar Tzadok Omer, Im lo nire bismano, if the moon is not seen in its right time, means the earliest opportunity. Ein mekadshin oisa. Okay, I know it's not, doesn't seem the rule that we learned until now. Yeah, Tanya, we've got a brisa. We thought there were 2 views. Says the brisa, Palimo. That's a good name. Palimo Omer. Another, a very interesting name. Bismano ein mekadshin oisa. It's the reverse is true. Bismano ein mekadshin oisa. Shelo bismano mekadshin oisa. The reverse as to what we've seen in the Mishnah. He says if the previous month is 29 days, then ein mekadshin oisa. They only sanctify it when it is a longer month. Remember, Me'uba, a 30-day month. Then the Gemara, this brisa, brings a 4th view. Rabbi Loza bar Rab Shimon Omer, Bein kach uvein kach ein mekadshin oisa. That really goes against what we've seen, Mervyn. Rabbi Loza bar Rab Shimon says, no, you don't sanctify. I know it says, but you do not sanctify. What we've been familiar with, all these dapim, is not the view of Rabbi Loza bar Rab Shimon. Why not? Look, what are the reasons? Shenemar, the Pasuk says, V'kidashtem eshnas hachamishim shona. Do you remember that pasuk? V'kidashtem, you should sanctify. This is talking about the Yovel year. Eshnas hachamishim, it should be the word shona. The 50th year you should sanctify. Do you remember the 50th year is called the Yovel? People may remember that. It was actually one of the Gemaras we learned in the base. I think, when was it, last year or the year before? About the Yovel. Came up the Gemara in Gittin. Then wanted to get some Gittin there. If you got that far in the Gemara.
It's Abby's Bar Mitzvah Parsha, I think, Bahar.
That nodding his head there. He could probably lane it for us if we asked him, but we won't. We won't put you on the spot, don't worry. Actually, I think you did. Are you laning it this year? Anyway, we'll go. Okay, all right. Let's not go down there. You sanctify the 50th year. Interesting. So the Gemara says, Shonim atom kaddish. That pasuk tells us about sanctifying. You see, the pasuk never tells me. It says there's no actual pasuk which says the Bezin should sanctify the months. I know it's not as we've been used to, but the view of Rabbi Loza bar Rab Shimon is that it's years you'll sanctify. Yeah? Shonim ato makadesh, v'iato makadesh chodoshim. But you don't sanctify months. So we now have four different views here. The Tana Kama, if you remember, said you sanctify whether it's a 29-day month or a 30-day month. Then you've got the view of Rab Lozer Rab Shimon, who says you only sanctify if it's a 29-day month. You've got the view of Palimai, who says you only sanctify the 30 if it's a 30-day month. And Rab Lozer Rab Shimon, who says you never sanctify months, you only sanctify years. Okay, have a look at Rashi, please. Rab Lozer Rab Tzodek Omer. And then I've got the last of the narrow lines of Rashi. Bismana ein mekachin oisei. She'einu tzorich. Interesting. She'einu tzorich chizuk. It doesn't need strengthening. I suppose the point is you'd expect maybe the month of the first opportunity. Interesting that. We'll see more about this in a moment. When we look at it in Gemara, comes up in Sanhedrin. So interesting, we'll have to understand that. But go back to the Gemara, please. Second wide line down. Omer Rabbi Yehuda, Omer Shmuel. Halacha Rab Lozer Rab Tzodek. Wow. Out of those four views, the actual halacha follows the view of Rab Lozer Rab Tzodek, which means we only sanctify if it's a 29-day month, but not a 30-day month. Okay. But we will have to see how the Rambam will paskin on this in a moment. Omer Abaya, but before we do, the Gemara finishes off with another statement. Omer Abaya, Af Anan Nami Tanino. It's true, it was the view of Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel that we paskin like Rab Lozer Rab Shimon. Abaya says, I've got, if you like, a stam brisa, which seems to support that as well. But the view is, the halacha is like Rab Lozer Rab Shimon. Why is that? What do we find? This is a brisa. In fact, it's quoted here from, actually comes up again later on in the Gemara, but it's a brisa. The brisa says the following. Let's see if we can work out the logic why this is a proof that you only announce an Amakadosh if it's a 29-day month. We have a stam brisa supporting this. Let's see if we can work out the logic of that. Because the Gemara says, third wide line down, Ro'uhu bezdin v'chol Yisrael. Everybody saw a real clear month, imagine, perhaps midsummer, beautiful night, could be here in Eretz Yisrael, you can imagine, cloudless sky, beautiful viewing, everybody saw the moon, must have seen the moon that night. Anyway, even though that happened, you've still got to examine the Eidim. The Eidim come forward, Nech Karuhu Eidim. The Eidim are checked, Choker, examined, like Bedika, they're examined. V'lo hispiku loma mukudush. They didn't say yet, mukudush, ad shecha shecha. Oh dear. By the time they managed to examine the witnesses, the sun had set, it was already dark. Now, as we know, you can only announce, the announcement of the Rosh Chodesh can only be done in the day. They missed the boat. But you see, on this occasion, everybody saw that moon come on. Says the Gemara, quoting Harizeh Mu'uba. This month becomes automatically a Mu'uba Mu'beres, an extra month, a larger month than normal. Yes, it will move to a 30-day month, even though everybody saw that moon. Okay? Says the Gemara, interesting wording that the Brisa use. We're always very particular about every word that's used in a Brisa or a Mishnah. In fact, our Moraim as well. Notice it says, Harezeh me'ubor. That is an automatically long month. Says the Gemara, me'ubor in, mekudesh lai. Oh yes, it's a lengthened month, but it's not sanctified. The Mishnah didn't, the Brisa didn't say that. Have a look at Rashi. First wide line of Rashi. Mu'uba in. It uses the word that the month is an extra long month. Damashma. Mishechashecha nisaber. It sounded like, to me, says the Gemara, the proof, and that's what Abba is saying. It sounded like it is already been lengthened. Once it gets dark, it's automatically a long month. Remember, they did not manage to pronounce and say the Mekudesh, and therefore automatically it will become a Mu'uba. Look at the next Rashi, please. Ava Mekudesh Loi. Again, Ava Mekudesh Loi. Rashi adds a word, you read this all together. Mekudesh Loi Katoni. The Brisa could have said, Harizeh Miskadesh Lomocha. Tomorrow it will have to be sanctified by the Bezdin. Doesn't say that. You with me? So it sounds like that's a proof that because it's been lengthened, it won't need to be sanctified tomorrow. Automatically, it will become a lengthened month. You with me? So the Gemara suggests that is a proof from this Brisa, as it says the word mu'uba, not that they will be makadish it tomorrow. That follows the view of Rab Lazar bar Rab Tzadok, and in fact, you don't need to sanctify the moon tomorrow.
Can you explain what it means to mashma mishacha sheikha nisab? I don't quite understand that. Why? I mean, the agent came during the daytime.
Yes.
And they
came during the daytime, but they were examined, but they didn't manage to conclude the examination with the announcement today is Mekudesh, and the sun has set. Okay. So what happens?
It's just a logistic problem.
They've missed it. So terribly sorry and all. We've missed it. It's the Bezdin's fault. Finger will be pointed at the Bezdin. Why you didn't manage? Well, I'm sure they got a good reason, whatever it was, but they didn't manage. Says the Brisa, Harezeh mu'uba. That month becomes a lengthy month. Says Rashi, it's mashma that will be an automatic event. Once it gets dark, nis aber, it has become a lengthened month without the Bezdin having to be Makadish. That's what Rashi means. It looks like it's an automatic. You see, look at the next Rashi tells us that I would have expected this Brisa to say, you'll have to be Miskadish it tomorrow. You missed the boat, Ayonim. You'll have to be Makadish the month tomorrow. It doesn't say that. It says Harezeh Mu'uba, which sounds like it's an automatic Mu'uba, as it says, Mishech HaShecha Nisaber, without the Bezdin having to announce that it's Rosh Chodesh. You with me? So that's it. Do you understand the point? Says the Gemara, it's non-watertight. It's a nice proof, but it's not 100% proof. And as we know, we need a proof has to be absolutely watertight. Says the Gemara. Have you got it? Beginning of line is loy. Yeah. Beginning of line loy. Says the Gemara, no. It may well be it does need to be sanctified tomorrow. Maybe we don't paskin like Rab Lazar by Rab Lazar bar Tzadok, but you know why the Brisa mentioned this word mu'uba, so as to clarify the situation. Mu'uba itzrichale. That word mu'uba is needed and is crucial in this Brisa. Why is that? Says the Gemara, Sal kadata chamina. You might have thought, However, Ra'uhu Bezdin V'chol Yisrael, as everybody has seen the moon, if Farsama, it's become publicized, Velola Ibruha. And in fact, this month will not become lengthened. It was everybody knew that it was a clear night. Everybody saw that moon. A huge number of witnesses, just the Bezdin didn't get their act together. Maybe it would be actually still a 29-day month. Kol mashmalon, that's why there's a stress on this word mu'uba. Have a look at Rashi. Rashi clarifies this for us. Mu'uba itzrichalei. Says the Gemara, I need this word mu'uba. Why? Koloimar. As if to say there's obviously a problem here that Rashi's trying to solve for us. La'olam la'macha boi kiddush. It might well be. There are two ways you can learn, a proof or maybe not a proof. Maybe tomorrow it does need a sanctification. Tanya. So why didn't it say that? Why didn't the Brisa say tomorrow it will be sanctified? Because people might misunderstand. They might think, yes, tomorrow it will be sanctified. In retrospect, that yesterday was Rosh Chodesh. If you just said, yes, tomorrow they will, so continue Rashi. It needs to make known to us. Mu'uba, it is actually a lengthened month. Dahoel, seeing as Ubizmano Ro'uhu, yeah, they saw it in the right time. Everybody saw that moon on that night. Samach Dalad Aleph, Samach Salka Datach Amina. I might have thought, it might have entered my mind. Lola Ebruha. You don't need to make a lengthy month when everybody saw the moon. Is it imperative that the Besin has to say Mekudesh? The Itona, if it actually had learned the words that Rashi suggested before, Harezeh Miskadesh Lamocha, tomorrow will be holy. In which way will it be holy? Maybe it just means, continue, Havi Amin, I might have thought, La'olam, oh yes, tomorrow it will be sanctified by the Bezdin, but how will it be sanctified? Maybe it will be sanctified in retrospect. Miyoima kamo metakninon moyadoi seha. When you're doing all your calculations for Yom Tov, you will go and you will backdate one day. So if the Brisa had just said, yes, we will sanctify it tomorrow, I would have thought, yes, it does need Bezdin to sanctify, but it's retrospective. So therefore, it particularly mentions the word mu'uba to make it very clear, crystal clear, in fact, that the month is a 30-day month. It's not a 29-day month. It is a 20. So from there, we don't have a proof. So what are we left with, gentlemen? We're left with a statement of Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shmuel that the halacha is like Rav Loza Rav Tzodok. We try to bring a proof to back that up, and we haven't got a proof from the Brisa, but we do have Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel that the halacha is that you only sanctify the moon in Bezdin if it's a 29-day month. Now, last week, Peter, we had, I don't know if you still got that from last week. It was a Rambam. We looked at the Shekel HaKodesh last week. Have you still got that in your list of no?
Yeah, yes, I have. Give me 1 second and I will find it.
Right. Oh, that's excellent.
While he's looking for that, Norman, what's the Rashi mean chizuk? Sorry, chizuk. I didn't quite understand. What's the chizuk that's required?
Sorry, which word you're looking at?
Well, it says why we don't. 1 second. Rashi says in the Mishnah.
Yes, we haven't answered that, Rashi. That's true. We didn't answer it earlier, Rashi.
Yeah, Bismana Imkachin Association.
That was on the view. You're quite right. That was on the view. Bismana Ain. Sorry, he said Bismana Ain Makachin. Do you remember that was a view we saw on Polima? Yeah. We haven't explained that yet. That's true. Now,
and how do we know what's to be done? And how do we know what's to be done if it's not over as well?
No. There are 4 views we've seen. Either you sanctify after 29, or you sanctify only after 30, or you don't sanctify any, or you sanctify all. We are paskening. That Rashi was explaining one of the 4 views.
Yeah. What you don't sanctify it at
which
all.
we don't have pasken like that anyway, but we still need to try and understand Rashi. Agree.
And also understand that view is how do you know then which day Rosh Chodesh is?
No, that's fine. That view held that you only sanctify bisman
so. Yeah.
Oh, you're only sanctified when it's not a 29-day month, it's a 30-day month. So it looks like here, like when you're bismana ein makachinoisai, it doesn't need strengthening. Now, it's true, we have not yet explained what Rashi means by it doesn't need strengthening. That's true. Okay, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But meanwhile, let's just follow the view here of the Rambam. Oh, did we see this? Oh, no, I think it's going to be in the next. It's the end of that. I thought, did we have the next page of this? Or did we only have one attachment?
There was only one at the time.
Oh, there's only one there. Okay. I thought you. Oh, in which case I won't bother you, but I will take out the Rambam myself. Hold on a minute. Let's just find. Let me get a Rambam which is just behind me. Right, here we are. It's Kiddush HaChodesh. We can see where this comes from. If you look at the top left-hand corner, you can see it's Perek base of Kiddush HaChodesh, but it's the second half of what you had there last week, which you won't have in front of you, but I do. So I'll read it. Now, how are we going to Paskin? And it's true, we still need to understand that Rashi. Let's just have a look here. Now, just go back to that Rashi, which is not, well, let's see if it is if it's going to be the way we paskin, then we've got real problems. So we still, but whatever happens, we'll have to understand it. Let me find it for you. Here we are. Kiddush, Chodesh, here we are, Perek base, Halacha Ches. And wait for it, gentlemen, and you'll see how we paskin.
Peter, I can't see it on my screen.
No, we haven't got that one. We have from last week.
Oh, I see what you fine. Yes, I'm with you.
It was only the first half of it.
Okay, fine.
Right, here we are. This is the Rambam. We had the first half, which tells us, remember from last week, where the Rosh Bezdin announces Mekudesh, and then everybody answers. Remember the reply, the response is the refrain, if you like, Mekudesh, Mekudesh, and says the Rambam. Here it is, gentlemen. Ein mekadshin es hachodesh ela b'shloisha da 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 da. Ve'ein mekadshim ela chodesh shenire bizmanai. You only sanctify the moon if it's seen bismanai. Okay, so that's pretty clear. How are we therefore paskening? Out of those 4 views, if we're only sanctifying the month bismanai, we are therefore paskening like
Rabbi Elizabeth, Rabbi Tzadok.
Thank you very much indeed. We are paskening like the Gemara says we pasken, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shmuel, like Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Tzadok. That is the way we pasken. It's interesting. So we don't have to worry as far as Allah is concerned with that Rashi, but we still need to understand what Rashi means. That was Mervin's point. I think Benji's too. What does that Rashi mean? And you have to say it means bismano. If it's it's interesting. I know we've always said bismano after 29. That's called bismano. The first opportunity is when you might expect. I know it can either be 29 or 30, but bismano sounds like the norm, and particularly, it's very interesting. The two big months that we're concerned with.
Norman, I think you can hear
Yes,
me.
you're back. Right, I know. Yes, I heard that. Yes, or I didn't hear it. The two big months that we are concerned with are Adar and Elul, because Adar will go into Nisan for Pesach, and Elul will go into Rosh Hashanah. And Bismana, remember we've learned previously, the general trend of certainly of those 2 months would have been that those months would have been a 29-day months, which is Bismano. So now the word Bismano has something with perhaps extra power behind it. Bismano would mean the normal way would have been at the first opportunity, particularly those 2 months. So it's now not the norm that you're going to make those 2 months longer. In fact, perhaps it's not the norm. Are you ever going to make an extra month? I know it'll have to be 29 or 30. Those 2 months for sure, you'd expect them to be 29-day months. So therefore, that's really what Rashi's getting at, I think. Because you'd expect them. It doesn't need any strengthening. Whereas if you're lengthening the month, and everybody say, wow, this is rare. And that's when the Bezdin then do need to say Makudash. So it's almost like a default position, particularly those 2 months, perhaps any months, you'd expect as soon as you can, you have the Rosh Chodesh. And that's why, do you understand, Mervin? I think that's the point. They don't need strengthening. Whereas on those, if you're lengthening, that's, I say, very rare. And therefore, you do need the Bezdin to announce Makudash, go around, oh yes, and then people will go around saying, I heard the Bezdin announce Makudash. And that, of course, will fit into that Gemara of Levi as well, by the way. So Levi will fit into that view. It would also fit into the view that you do on 2 months. But you see, Levi now, that's a bit of a problem. Because that story about Levi saying, I didn't hear them announce Makudash. Well, if you paskin like Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, you won't hear Makudash if it was lengthened. So that, I say, that Levi Gemara clearly is not following the halacha. So the Rambam is paskining, again, that on a 29-day month, you will not, 29-day month, the Bezdin will say Makudash, not on a 30-day month. Now,
but I mean, it's still slightly artificial because Bismana astronomically.
The word Bismana is a bit funny, yes, agreed.
It's either 29 or 30 days. And I take your point that for 2 months we need to know, because what are the 2 months, Elul and
Elul and Adar, after Elul,
for the October.
They're the two crucial ones.
But that's...
Yes.
But it's not really
so that's good. So Bismano means what perhaps you'd say, yes, it's expected, but nevertheless, those are the months. You see, then you've got a different argument. Then the argument is it's Bezdin's decided that today is going to be, that's when he says, it's up to you. You've brought it a day early. It could have gone either way. You, Bezdin, have decided today will be Rosh Chodesh, whereas once you pass that day, there is only one more option. There is no further Bezdin's involvement, if you like. Yes, I know they've delayed it from yesterday, but therefore Bismano means in the time. That shows the power that they brought it, if you like, earlier. That's how we pass it. Now, Peter, can we have another Mishnah Brura, please?
Yes, give me the
one
page.
that's... you want a page, you? Let's just find it for you. Hold on. The one that says 183 of 287.
And Norman, how do you explain the view of the guy who says that you don't need either day? I mean, how does that work?
He's got a puzzle.
No, but how does it work in practice? If you don't Kaddish either day, then how do people know?
No. They are decided, but they don't go through this Makudish. They don't have to say.
I see.
Makudish.
So the Beth Din still announces.
Oh, they still can. They can decide what. No, not that one. Not that one. We'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah, this is the one. That's the the one that you just had it. That's the one. If you can scroll, thank you very much. That's the one we want. Whoa, oh, well done. That looks good. Simon Tov Chaf Base. Seder Tefillah V'Halel for Rosh Chodesh. Of course, we have something similar for Chol HaMoed or Yom Tov. Arvis, Shachris, and Mincha is talking about Rosh Chodesh. You done normal 18 brachas, or 19, it's called Shemona Esrei. You say Ya'aleh V'Yovai, but if you omit Ya'aleh V'Yovai in Ma'ariv, Ein Machzirin Oisai. Notice that. That's very strange. Bain, okay? You do not repeat the Amida for Ma'ariv if you didn't say Ya'aleh V'Yovai. Carry on the Shulchan Aruch. Bein she'Rosh Chodesh Yom Echad, bein she'hei Shnei Yomim. Look at the wording of the Shulchan Aruch. Now, at this point, let me just stop. If you forgot on Chol HaMoed in the Amida, the weekday Amida, to say Ya'aleh V'Yovai, you repeat the Amida. Again, Shachris and Mincha of Rosh Chodesh, you forget to say Ya'aleh V'Yovai, and you only remember after you've finished, then you have to repeat the whole Amida. If you remembered and you haven't yet concluded the Amida, you can go back to Ritzei. But notice the first halacha here. Imlo Omru Ba'avis, top line again. Ein Machzirin, 2 lines from the end. No, when I said top line, I meant of Simon Tovchof base, 422. For Ma'ariv, you do not go back if you forget Ya'aleh V'Yovai. Wow. Bein she'Rosh Chodesh Yom Echad, bein she'hei Shnei Yomim. Why not? Mipnei she'ein mekadshim es hachodesh balayla. Avlim lo omru shachris mincha machzirim. Are you happy? Can we go back to faces, please? Michael with us, good. Do you see that halacha? If you forget only in Ma'ariv, Ya'aleh V'Yovai, if you're still in the Mida, you do not go back for Ma'ariv. For Shachris and Mincha, you do the return. Similarly for Chol HaMoed, you do return. If in the weekday Amida you forgot Ya'aleh V'Yovai, but not for Ma'ariv. Why not? Because Ein Mekadshin Balayla. You do not sanctify the moon at night, and therefore, although, yes, we know what the calendar says, we know that today is going to be Rosh Chodesh, we look at our calendar, but in fact, the Beis Din would never sanctify it at night, so therefore, it hasn't got that power of a Rosh Chodesh at night regarding repeating the Amida. Is everybody happy with that? I will continue on. Even, said the Shulchan Aruch, if it's a lengthened month, because Ein Mekadshin Balayla. 1 minute. Didn't we say we paskin like Rabbi Loza Bar Tzadok? The Rambam paskins like Rabbi Loza Bar Tzadok, which means once you've passed, I can understand if Rosh Chodesh was going to be after 29 days, then Beis Din would not yet have announced Rosh Chodesh until the morning, and therefore, if you forget Ya'aleh V'Yovai at night, do not repeat the Amida. But according to Rabbi Loza Bar Shimon, no, Rabbi Loza Bar Tzadok, it's only months that are 29 after that you sanctify. If it's going to be a longer month of Ma'uba, that's a day 2, they're not going to sanctify it anyway. Beis Din Shel Malo, we said, it happens and it's an automatic thing. You with me? In which case, on the second night, why do you not repeat the Amida in Mariv if you forget the Aleph Yova? It's got nothing to do with Kiddush of the Bezdin. Do you understand the question? If you can now turn to the Or Someach. Please, powerful question from the Or Someach. Coming up on our screens here we are. Thank you very much. Widened out for us. Drop down if you can scroll down a bit for us. Yes, a bit more. Here we are. Halacha Yud Aleph in the Rambam. Hilchos Tefillah. Aval Avish Rosh Chodesh Im Lo Hizkeh Ein Chozer. That's what the Rambam says. Okay. Says the. Where are we here? Let me just a minute. Yes, the great. No, 1 minute. Let me just make sure I've got it here as well. Yeah, but are people familiar, before we go any further, with Remeir Simcha from Dvinsk, dying in 1926? The great Or Someach.
Meshech Chochma, is that right?
Oh, well done there. Yes, sir. He gets the points. L'chaim to you. Well done, the famous saint Meshech Chochma.
He had a famous partnership with the Rogachover.
Yes, yes. Well done there.
It wasn't
indeed.
a partnership, it was a sparring. It was a duel.
Okay, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yes, a sparring partnership.
A sparring, right? Yes, that's right, indeed. And here in the Halacha Yud Aleph of the Rambam says, Aval Avish Rosh Chodesh Im Lo Hizkeh Ein Chozer. Continues the Or Someach, or starts the Or Someach. Ayin Lecha Mishnah. And drop down, we don't need that. Keep dropping down. Now, hold on, that's it. Oh, yeah, no, we might as well read that Lechem Mishnah. Now, it's good, it's well placed for us. But let's read that again. Lechem Mishnah, Hevi Dibri HaTosfos. If you she'ein makadshim balayla, fine. Yesh mefur davke balayla v'she'ein en machzir noisa. Balayla shnei machzir noisa. He's quoting Tosfos. Shekva Mekudesh Hayom Shelafonot da. Fourth line down. Umei Oidi means it sounds like Me'odi Ad Hayom Hazeh from years gone by. Oyo Napele Ba'enai. Fourth line down. Hello Kai Malon. We hold in Maseches Rosh Hashanah. Next line. Dafchof Dalad Kurab Loza Barab Tzodek. The imlo nira bismanoi ein mekadshid oisoi shekava kidshuhu shomayim. Im kain, if so, biyom sheni on a second day. If there is a second day Rosh Chodesh, which means the month now is the previous month was a 30-day month. Ein tzorich kiddush bezdin. V'loma, in which case ein machdirin. So why does the chap not have to go back? Imlo Omar Shel Rosh Chodesh Balayla. You with me? It's nothing to do with the Bezdin. If we paskin like the other view that we saw there in Makadish, whether it's a short month or a longer month, I can understand. The Bezdin cannot be Makadish at night. But now it's out of the hands of the Bezdin. Once it's a longer month, we paskin like Rabbi Loza Baruch Tzodek. Look what he says, V'zeh tzorech iyun godel. It needs to be looked at with great, if you like, depth. Tzorech iyun godel. That's the highest question you can find, the tzorech iyun godel. And then he says, Ad shemotzosi la Tosfos. I found a Tosfos in Maseches Sanhedrin, Daf Yud, and please, if Peter, if you could show us that Tosfos, running out of time here, but we'll quickly, if you can bring up that next Gemara. Oh, no, it's what I sent you. That's the one behind, I can see it. The one behind. That's the one. It's the same Gemara there. It comes up. One a bit, very good. The same Gemara you can see as you come down the page. Rabbi Loza bar Tzodok, the son of Rabbi Loza bar Tzodok, Omer, Imlo Nira Bismana Emakachino Shakishu Shomayim. Yeah, all the same. It's similar Gemara to us. But look at the top Tosfos. He brings various views. We haven't got time for all of this, but I just want to show you the main thing. Oh yes, so here we are. He brings a Pirush HaKuntrus in Perek Beis of Rosh Hashanah, which we don't seem to have, not in Perek Beis anyway. To biyom shloshim, take it the third line down. To biyom shloshim mamtinin bezdin shel malo. In a but, they wait, if you like. Le bezdin shel mato, shema yavru. Maybe it will be a longer month. Avol yom shloshim be'echod. When it gets to day 31, which is an impossibility, yevsha shelo kidshu hayoim. Mekachin oisa b'shomayim min hashacha. Shomayim is mekadish. Notice those words, min hashacha, in the morning. In other words, the bezin, if you like, with the automatic situation, is very similar to what the bezin would have done, but it's out of their control. What I mean is this. If the month, the previous month, is not a 29-day month, it will be a 30-day month. But that, what will happen then, it doesn't become Rosh Chodesh. Yes, it does. Of course, we know on the calendar, that night is already Rosh Chodesh. But the real effect of the Rosh Chodesh is in the morning, like the Bezdin would have done. It's the morning. That's why he adds this word, Bashachar. You with me? Now we can go back to that Or Someach, please. Thank you. Where were we up to? V'tzorchi in Godel. Beginning line is Balayla. Thank you. A couple of lines down. One more, two more. There we are. Keep going. Ad shemotzosi l'toisvus in Maseches Sanhedrin Daf Yud. Bebezdin shel Mala, which means when Bezdin shel Mata not sanctifying, Mekachinosa b'shacha Yom Lamed Aleph is considered sanctified in the morning. That's the point. But it's not the Bezdin shel Mata that makes this announcement anymore. It's now comes, it's out of their hands. They didn't do what they need to do. Well, a fizer, but Arvis, therefore in Arvis, it's not really Rosh Chodesh yet.
I'm sorry, should I get up? I'll switch off in a minute.
Okay. Ein machzirin oisai. They do not go back. So if we can go back to faces, please, just as we conclude. Do you understand the point? What we're saying is, whatever, if Bezdin aren't doing their job, Bezdin Shel Mala will do the job for them. That's the point. But they will do the job that Bezdin Shel Mata would have done. That's what it means. If it's a 29-day month, then Bezdin Shel Mata has decided today is Rosh Chodesh, as if whatever's going to in above, they're waiting to see what Bezdin Shel Mata are going to do. If they decide it's not Rosh Chodesh, or they miss the boat, then it's true, it was out of their hands, and now it's an automatic thing that the next day will be Rosh Chodesh, but it will be Rosh Chodesh in the same way and it would have been in Bezdin Shel Mata, which means from the morning, and therefore that night is not strictly Rosh Chodesh yet. Therefore, yes, you should say Ya'aleh V'Yaveh, but if you omitted the Ya'aleh V'Yaveh, either night of Rosh Chodesh, if it's a 1 day Rosh Chodesh or 2 days Rosh Chodesh, if you omit Ya'aleh V'Yaveh at night, you do not go back. So now we understand that even though we paskin as the Rambam does, based on our Gemara, that it's we paskin like Rabbi Loza bar Reb Tzodok. Okay, final point, gentlemen, the final viewing of tonight. As I wish you all a great last few days, in particular the seventh day. Now, of course, we know about the seventh day. The seventh day of Yom Tov, Pesach, represents, of course, the seventh day, which was the Kriyas Yom Tov. Have you got the next attachment, please, Peter? The last one. If I can just show you this. Very powerful comment here from, again, the Mishnah Berurah quoting, no, not that one, the other one, the only one we haven't shown tonight, which is, as he turns the page. That's the one. This is Hilchos Brachos. Thank you very much. Scroll down a bit more for us. Yes, there we are. Yes. It talks about that's the one I want. Zion, look at the tells you about how to read this. Oh, sorry, I'm not looking at the Mishnah Berurah. I'm looking at the Behete. That's why I can't find what I'm looking for. Can you scroll a bit more, please? That's a bit better. That's very good indeed. Have a look at where it says, you can see Yud Ches, up, down, 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 down. Yes, Yud Zayin. That's a yes. Keep aware. Yesh lahafsik b'mayim adirim. Let's talk about this some other occasion. Adirim koyel mitzrayim. V'yoyma. Look at the last lines. We are talking about the last day of Pesach. Have you got it? It says v'yoyma shiras. You're going to line. No, the end of the line says the word shir. That's it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, where he's talking here about brachos. He's talking here about the Shiur every day, but in particular, the big event is the seventh day of Pesach, which is Friday. Friday is the day out of the Kriyas Yom Tov. And of course, every day we get that opportunity of saying the Shiur, Oz Yoshir. But look at this. Yoima Shiras Hayom, next line, the Simcha. That Hashem saved us. Again, we're really out of the clutches of the Egyptians. He should feel this gratitude. Thank you. We're out of the clutches and we became a people without having the Mitzrayim running after us. Saying it b'simcha. Wow. Someone who says it with the simcha, and of course that applies, thinking of the gratitude, there's this mechilas averus. Wow. A person becomes like a new person. We go back to faces, please, Peter. This very powerful idea of saying the Shiur, singing praises to Hashem that saved us from the Mitzrayim. And it's not just the Mitzrayim, it's every person has their own Shiur that they can sing, full of gratitude, whatever. There's always the lining, the silver lining, whatever the clouds look like. We are full of gratitude. If a person has this feeling of gratitude stemming maybe from the Shiur, which was when we, really now we're out of their reaches entirely because they were no longer here at all. Someone who has that simcha and they think about it on other occasions where they realize they're in the hands of Hashem, who will be looking after us. Someone who has that feeling and that mindset, nimchalu avonosov. It's like it becomes a new person, forgiven, and on now to, I say, can look forward to further advancement. And nimchalu avonosov, very powerful language there. But the main point that they're getting across is this idea of the gratitude that we have. Of course, we have Hallel, and we're full of gratitude as Hallel and Nishmas that we say. But in particular, it's the Shiur, which that really epitomizes the end of the Mitzrayim. Otherwise, they could always come back and chase. That was really the end of it. And if a person hasn't thank you, the gratitude that we have to Hashem, this is a great opportunity. It will say Nimchalu Avonosov, and a person can move onwards and upwards as we move forward. So, with that, gentlemen, I wish you all a very good Shiur. Hopefully laid in the right manner, and have a beautiful Yom Tov. last couple of days. Wishing you all well. Now, next week will be a week off because we hope to be traveling. We have a wedding in England. Actually, it's a great nephew is getting married. Diane Posen's son. Diane Posen is my nephew, is his son. Anyway, so we will be traveling next Wednesday, and I don't think yet we're freeze on this way. I'm sure on a plane. I don't think I'll be able to get any coverage, even though we're that high. But anyway, so next Wednesday, as I'm traveling, there'll be a week off. But hopefully the following week we'll be back on track. We hope, Emir Hashem. So meanwhile, if I can just ask you, Peter, a note out, I suppose, to the group.